What is up, boys? Welcome back to the channel. Starfield irritates me. The premise on which this game was built is, in my opinion, flawed. I had to make a video on this because it does one of the most irritating things that a lot of games do fall victim to today. It does it so well that it could actually be the poster child of why not to do this thing in your game. Now, Starfield does do a lot of things right, but I believe they fall flat because they kept trying to do this one thing. Basically, they mistake the belief that more content equals a better game, and it's not even really content, it's procedurally generated content. So what this game was marketed as is a 1,000 hour content fiesta. You will finish the campaign and you will enter real space. You will go to real moons and planets that you will spend hours on and days on just finding out what's new on these planets. That literally cannot be further from the truth. The way they do this, like I said, is through procedural generation, and it can produce like these vast amounts of rendered objects and different sceneries, slightly changed. But at the end of the day, they don't do it well enough to engage you for a good time. When you make a game like this, I really feel like the true question a game developer should be asking themselves is think about it like a movie, right? Would you rather watch a 90-minute movie that you are just on the edge of your seat on for the entire time? You can't even take a bite of popcorn because you're so engaged in this movie. Or would you rather watch 10 hours of the SpongeBob theme song on repeat? You know what I'm saying? And basically, here lies my concern. This is what irritates me, right? It's this constant need for AAA developers to market this 1,000 hour campaign, this freaking expedition of content that you will never, ever be finished playing. You'll be playing this game for the next 27,000 years, It's not good. It's not good for the player. It's good for an executive and investors, and I'll explain why in a second. But is that gameplay meaningful? If you make 1,000 hour game and for every 10 hours you play, 1 hour is fun, that's not 1,000 hour game. That's a 100 hour game that you are making 9 hours absolutely dreadful for the player itself. If I basically came to you and was like, okay, here's the pathway. You get to walk. Every 9 feet is broken glass that you have to walk on barefoot, but every 1 foot, you get reprieve. There's no broken glass. Why not just give me a smaller walking path with no broken glass on it? How about that? I mean, the thing is games have to have engaging gameplay and meaningful gameplay instead of these repetitive over and over tasks, right? So I talked about this in one of my other videos that gameplay has to have immediate and usable rewards, something that engages the player and keeps you going to the next thing. I'm not talking about a heal pack or, some kind of food item, but something interesting that leads the player and wants to have them use it for the next, hour or two of gameplay and keeps them further engaged in that game. You can really tell if there's 10 really good tasks, 10 really good missions that make sense and are cohesive together. And then you can also tell if there's 100 tasks that are just variants of those 10 and just copy and pasted for the sake of making you spend more time playing that game. So yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, the main game, right? The campaign, let's just call it the main game because it's the main storyline. You go through it to get your powers and all that fun stuff, and then you reach the end of it. How long does that realistically take? If you just go right through it, it takes 20 hours. I think it took me maybe 25, 30 just because I did some side quests, and you can further expand that based on how much side crap you want to do. And honestly, if you do that, the problem with it is it feels time wasty. You feel like you're just wandering around, just trying to, basically kill time and try to get your money's worth out of the video game. And you shouldn't have to do that in a video game. I think most people would prefer a really well-made, smaller game than these poor 1,000-hour, infinite possibilities, infinite content video games. And the way they get this done is through procedural generation. You can make a game infinity hours long if you use procedural generation. Is it going to be fun? No. Is it going to be slightly different? Sure, but it doesn't make it engaging for the player. It turns you into a number. It turns you into a time waste metric at that point. There's a lot of games that do it really well and use the tool of procedural generation, which is exactly how we should look at it, like Minecraft. It creates these new biomes. It creates different dungeons, different underwater kingdoms, things like that, right? Random animal spawns. It does it in that type of game very well. I don't think you can use procedural generation at this time in an RPG game. The reason you can't use procedural generation in an RPG at this time is because there's so many ancillary things going on in the background of an actual RPG, right? You have the story, the setting, the exploration, the quests, keeping those engaging and not repetitive, items, inventories, character actions, abilities, experience levels. There's so many different things going on in an RPG. And if you're just procedurally generating a different rock, then that doesn't do anything for those other elements that need to be an integral part of making that game successful. Now, that's not to say that procedural generation will ever not be used or shouldn't be used in the future. I think with the advancements in AI, so, the Terminator overlords, T-1000, going to come in and kill us all and take over our brains, I think that's going to be the future of procedural generation. I do see a lot, and this is a whole other video topic, right? But I could definitely see a use case for, creating these 1,000-hour games that actually make sense if you have an AI that keeps the story engaging and keeps these other factors engaging for the player throughout that entire experience, instead of making this repetitive, same collect 10 items task, right? And the reason we keep getting stuff like this crap shoot of content being shot out of the AAA industry, is because of executives. And I don't want to be that guy that's always it's the executives' fault. Bobby did it to us, right? Bobby is the one that caused all of our problems. Albeit a lot of crappy stuff comes out through the form of monetization from executives, but not everything is their fault, believe it or not. There are bad developers, there are people bad at their job, and these executives don't sit behind them, judging their every single move. But in this case, I genuinely believe it's the executive's fault, and the leadership, the board, whoever's in charge, right, the investors, it's their fault for making stuff like this keep coming out. And the reason they choose to do this is because of the age-old meme, the retention metric, right? So if you are an investor, somebody giving the company money, do you want to see a game with 100,000 players or 1 million? What sounds better on paper? 1 million sounds so much bigger. It's grander. It's this extraordinary number. It says a lot, and it casts a wide net to other investors. So using this herd mentality, right? Like herd theory is that people are going to garner and go to the thing that has more views, more watches, more engagement than the other, without using cognitive thought, because it's a bigger number good, right? It's all about that. And when investors see that 1 million people playing, and they cast this wide net, and they use the 1,000-hour content to cast that wide net. So it's like bait, basically, to bring in hundreds of thousands of people, which then boost the retention metric, boost the player base numbers. And this is very important even without MTX in the game, because a large player base is going to garner attention still. It's going to garner the public's eye into your company, therefore boosting the notoriety, the notability of your company, which increases stonks, right? It's like this cycle, and it's low-key predatory. I mean, it's similar to MTX in my opinion when you market a game like this and do things like this in the game. It's not fair to the person, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people that aren't aware of these types of things, and they're going to see 1,000 hours. Oh, well, Charlie, you won the chocolate factory. You don't have to play another game again. You'll never spend money. You're basically saving money buying this game because of how much content is in it. That's the message they send to some people, and some people really believe that, right? I didn't think I was going to get 1,000 hours out of this game. I didn't. I thought I was going to get at least more than maybe 30, 40 hours of enjoyment. I got maybe 50 hours max of like enjoyment. And there are a ton of things that, you know, could be used to improve this game and make it a better game. And you could go into like the bugs or the staring faces, right, that you see on your screen here, and other different minutia things. But overall, this is like one of the things I think is most irritating and about this game is that it puts a facade up of this fake 1,000 hour journey that you're going to experience, and it's just not true. It's simply not true. Unfortunately, I don't think, you know, game studios are going to stop doing this, because it does cast such a large net and captures so many people in this nonsense of promising something that's not there. 800% value type energy, you know what I'm saying? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I appreciate you all. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Mwah. Have a good day, everybody.